Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lugnet's Monster. Today we're going to be reviewing the Star Wars The Black Series Force Spirits 3-pack, part of the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. And I gotta say, this thing looks incredible. It was a Hasbro Pulse and Shop Disney exclusive, and it is here in the classic vintage packaging, and I absolutely love how this thing looks. Now, of course, we do have all three figures inside here individually carded, which is super nice. But do love the artwork here. Do love like this classic Kenner style. Flipping it around to the side here, we do have this nice artwork here, as well as this amazing screenshot from the film right here on the back, looking great. Obviously, this is the special edition version with Hayden Christensen, and I think that was a pretty decent choice. Same thing on this side as well. And on the top, we actually do have a wave layout of this is wave 2 of the 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi, and they did throw in the 3 Force Spirits here as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and crack this guy open and take the 3 carded figures out individually. So we do have the 3 Force Spirits out of the original packaging here, and now they are all out here on their individual cards. All unpunched cards, which is super cool. For an example here, they're unpunched, which I absolutely love. I really love that they decided to do that. And I know a lot of figures, they go up in value if they are unpunched cards. Now, obviously, since every single one of these are going to be unpunched, it's not going to affect the value. But I think it's really cool that they decided to do that, kind of just from a collector's standpoint. But I think the 3 card backs here are perfect examples of what these characters are. I think, you know, they're 4 spirits, and they got the exact screenshots from the one, scene that they're all in. So I think it fits pretty well, and I like what they did with them. And then flipping around to the back, they all have the exact same card back on the back. Literally, the bios, photos, everything are exactly the same. And I do absolutely love these card backs, but unfortunately, I have to cut them open. And so I'm not just going to rip these off the card backs because I do want to kind of preserve them, but I will cut along the edge here and kind of surgeon them out of the packaging so I can at least keep them. I probably won't hang them on the wall because, again, I don't want to mess with the punch at the top, but I do want to keep the packaging intact. So I'm in the middle of cutting these out, and I wasn't going to add this in, but I gotta say, there is a horrendous, like, plasticky smell that I'm getting when unboxing these guys that I have not gotten with any other Black Series figure. It is really bad. So we got these guys out of the box, and I gotta say, I'm really digging these guys. Now, they do have these, like, purple translucent cloaks, which I do like. It definitely gives the effect of the cloak here on the box, as you can kind of see in the background. Now, unfortunately, these cloaks in the background are like a brown cloak. You can tell it's a brown cloak, and so it doesn't necessarily match the purple ones as much. But of course, this is a Force Ghost, and it's really hard to get that effect in figure form. And so I think they pulled that off the best they could, and I actually really like how it came out. Now, I'm not going to really go over articulation too much, just because these guys are Force Ghosts. You're not doing any dynamic poses with these guys. They stand like this, and that's pretty much how I'm going to display them. So I'm not going to do too much articulation, not going to go super in depth, but I will go in depth with the different molds because these 2 molds are completely different, and I believe there are some brand new sculpts on this guy. Now, starting off with Obi-Wan, this guy is essentially the exact same as the previous Force Ghost Obi-Wan we gotten, but the main difference is this guy is updated with the photoreal face here, which I think came out incredibly. Here is an up-close of the face, and yeah, I love the likeness to Alec Guinness here, and I think it's a big improvement over the previous Force Ghost version. Now, comparing this to the standard version of Ben Kenobi, as you can tell, they are the exact same mold. Obviously, this cloak is different, but for the most part, these are the exact same figures. Now, this one does have more of a pearly-esque tone to it to make it look more mystic and Force Ghosty, so I'm perfectly fine with that. And as you can tell, this is the photoreal version, so this one did come with the Cantina Showdown set. But they look great together, and I think these are, I guess, the 2 definitive versions of Ben Kenobi. But again, these are the, like, exact same mold, so the articulation isn't the best for these figures, but again, he's an old man. You don't need to get him in any dynamic poses. He kind of just stands around, and so for what he is, I think the articulation gets the job done. Next up is Anakin, and I definitely had to do some digging to figure out what part of this figure was reuse and what part is new, and I do think a lot of this figure is more reuse than you would think, but it is somewhat new here and there as well. Now, obviously, the big kicker here is the Hayden Christensen face sculpt. I absolutely love how this came out. I love the smiling expression that he has here. It looks incredible, and I really just love how this Hayden Christensen face turned out. I know some people wanted the Sebastian Saul version of this figure because that was what was in the original movies, and I understand where they're coming from, but I do personally like the Hayden Christensen Force Ghost better, so I'm really happy with their choice here. And at first, I thought that these two were the exact same molds. They just swapped the heads. But, upon further inspection, he does have a lightsaber hook here. Hayden Christensen does not. Obviously, Anakin is much taller, and the molds are just different. And so originally I thought this guy was a brand new sculpt, but upon some more further investigation, I can say that the legs here, while they are this translucent blue color, they are reused from Mace Windu here. They are the exact same legs as Mace Windu. He does have pinned legs here, as well as this little notch on the toe, and so does this figure here. He does have the pinned legs as well. And so he does reuse the legs as well as the arms here from Mace Windu, and so not as new as I thought it was going to be. It would have been nice to get a new mold, but it's also one of those where they're the similar height, and it really makes sense to reuse the mold, so I don't really blame them for that. I think it's a pretty good mold already, so no need to, reinvent the wheel. But they did add a new sculpt for this skirt piece here, as well as the actual tunic overlay. So they did add new molds here, obviously with the face as well, and I really appreciate that because they could have done some sneaky stuff and reused that Obi-Wan body or the Mace Windu, and they didn't. They made new molds for these two pieces, and it really adds to the figure, and I'm glad they did that. Now, comparing this to the Anakin head sculpt that we already have in the line, as you can tell, this one's a little bit bigger, but for the most part, I think this one is just much better as well. I think the likeness to Hayden Christensen is definitely a lot more on the new one here. Obviously, this one does have that pearlish effect, but I do really like what they did with that head sculpt. And I really like this one much better for just a standard, Jedi Knight Anakin, because I love the grin he has. I think it definitely gives Anakin vibes, much more than this snarling face. I don't know, this one just doesn't really look great to me, but I love what they did with this one. But comparing him to the actual Episode 3 Anakin figure here, this one does have the Sith Eyes face on it, and I gotta say, I love the Sith Eyes face. Now, obviously, the Force Ghost wouldn't have that face. It wouldn't make sense for the character, but I would love to see an updated Hasbro version of the Sith Eyes face with the messy hair and the angry face. I absolutely love that face for this figure, and I'd love to see an updated version. But overall, I think they look pretty good together, and I think you can definitely tell they are the same character. But I would absolutely love to see an updated Hayden Christensen face on this guy. It would look incredible. And then just for comparison, we do have Episode 2 Anakin and Clone Wars Anakin here. All look great together, and this is another great addition of Anakin into the line. Next up is Yoda, and this guy is a huge improvement compared to the previous version of Force Ghost Yoda, but it also does have a big flaw, which I want to talk about. So comparing it to the old version, as you can see, there is a huge difference, especially in the size of these figures, and this one is much better just because it is accurate to the scale of what Yoda actually is. Yoda is not this big in actual 1/6 scale, so they scaled him down to make him more accurate, and I really love that they did that because it really fits what size Yoda actually would be. And so don't get me wrong, I like this version of Yoda, I like the Force Ghost version here, but this is much more accurate, and I really like how that one came out. But they actually did reuse the mold from the Empire Strikes Back Dagobah training Yoda, and I think this, again, it's a perfect choice. I really like this scale for Yoda much better. I think the big problem here, and you can even see in the photo in the background here, the belt goes over the cloak, and they did it right on this guy, but on this one, the belt is underneath the cloak. And I think that it's a big flaw on this figure because there's really no way to get that thing off without damaging it, and I wouldn't want to even try that either because I don't know how well you could get it over this thinner mesh cloak of the Force Ghost version. So they even did that on this one where the the belt is over it, and that's a big problem on this one. One, it's not accurate, but two, that belt just holds the cloak together, and they didn't do it. So it kind of makes this figure look a little funky, and I'm just not a huge fan of it. And another it's not really an issue, but it's something that kind of bothers me with this guy, is that you can see through the cloak, and so you can see his legs underneath it, and his legs look so wonky. It just looks like he has really long legs and no torso whatsoever. Now, is that accurate to Yoda? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think I've really ever seen Yoda without his cloak. But the fact that you can see through it and you can see the legs underneath, it's just a little weird. Not that it's bad. I understand why they did it. Obviously, I like the translucent cloak here. It adds to the Force Ghost effect, but it does look a little wonky. So, overall, I really like this set. I know I kind of bashed on the figures here and there, but it's just constructive criticism because I really love these guys, and I know the Force Ghost Anakin has been on my wish list ever since the previous Force Ghosts have come out, and it's really nice to finally have that figure in hand. Honestly, I was not even sure they were going to do it, so it's nice to see it, and honestly, I like they did it in a 3-pack. All 3 of these characters are attached in one scene, and it really makes sense to release them all together, and I really like the vintage card backs as well as the vintage packaging that this thing came in. But I think the best way you can display this is with a file made by Landspeeder Luke. He does 3D prints for Black Series dioramas. He is linked in the description. Please go check him out. But he did make the Force Ghost Bridge, or the Endor Bridge, and it even has a little sitting spot for Yoda so he can sit even with the 3 Force Ghosts, and I love this thing so much. So I do plan on printing this in the future, so make sure to come back if you are interested in that video. But I think that this is going to be the #1 best way to display these figures. And so if you haven't checked out Landspeeder Luke yet, please go check him out. He does a ton of great work, and I think it's going to really bring together this Force Ghost display. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for the video. If you did enjoy, hit the like button and subscribe. And please let me know what you guys think of these figures down below. And I'll see y'all in the next video.